What is up, everyone? Crunchy Frog back with another Call of Duty discussion video for you today. And today I wanted to dive into what I feel the zombie team over at Treyarch could do to basically bring fans back into the good graces with the zombie series. As we know, Vanguard Zombies was kind of absolutely terrible and universally panned by pretty much everyone. A lot of that had to do with him ditching the round-based effort. I'm not going to get into a deep dive on why Call of Duty Vanguard Zombies sucked, but we all know it wasn't great, and as of right now, people are starting to doubt the once great team over at Treyarch Zombies. In addition to that, the recent storyline and universe has just become far too convoluted and fantasy-like. That's more of a subjective criticism, but again, total different topic for another day. And so I figured with the Modern Warfare series undergoing a reboot, today I wanted to talk about how I feel Treyarch and the Zombies team could actually reboot Call of Duty Zombies as a whole to bring things back in perspective and get fans back on their side. So again, as I mentioned in the intro there, the storyline and universe has become far too convoluted. I mean, you know, you take one search on YouTube and you'll see that the lore and timeline videos that are made for Call of Duty Zombies are sometimes several hours long. And the mere fact that there has to be several hour-long videos or videos at all to explain what's going on to everyone kind of tells the tale of how bad this story has kind of woven out of control as they desperately try to tie every single thing they do together back into one cohesive storyline. And basically, you know, we started out in the first couple of maps, you know, from zombies were just kind of science experiments that had gone wrong the whole way up to nowadays, you know, we have a guy named the Shadow Man taking control of everything. There's aliens, there's other timelines, there's multiverses. There's several versions of the same person fighting and killing each other. It's just gotten crazy. And as I stated before, you know, the story is getting a little too fantastical as well. And the maps kind of bleed that in as well, right? You know, with the different dimensions and you teleporting to the dark ether and just different things like that that I know is more of a subjective criticism, something that I don't enjoy, but it's something that I've heard echoed in the community a lot as well. This just kind of gotten far away from the initial vision that Zombies did, and as such, as they constantly scramble to think of new things, I think it just makes the games, the stories, the maps, everything like that just far worse. And even in Vanguard, I mean, now they're bringing in, you know, pretty much every person that you talk to outside of your operator's kind of canned remarks were all gods or godlike figures, you know, with the boss fight being a gigantic god zombie. Like, it's gotten a little too out of control. And again, I could go into an entire, you know, 20-30 minute rant video about this, dissecting exactly what, you know, is bad about that or what I hate about that, but that's another video for another day. And I want to kind of move on to what I would do to, you know, kind of reboot the franchise as a whole. So I want to get back to what made the original maps so great, and to me that was the layer of realism and subtle world building that they had. A lot of the world building and storytelling and everything like that was done through discrete radios and clues and papers you would find in different areas. And you know, if you remember, like Peter McCain swinging from the rafters missing an arm that you found on the first power switch, just different things like that, you know, listening to radios. And the way that the radios were presented made it feel very realistic. And to me, that's what really got me into Zombies. Obviously, I started at the very beginning with World at War, but it's what really kind of encapsulated me. And I remember playing those games and trying every time to find if there was something hidden that I'd never seen before, something real or gritty or kind of creepy or scary that I could find in the map, on top of just trying to survive. And I don't get that sense anymore whatsoever. I know the Cold War story, they tried kind of walking things back a little, but then immediately you were back in the dark ether and just everything was crazy all over again. So they walked back some of the craziness that we ended in Black Ops 4, but by no means did they bring it the whole way back home. So what would I actually do to change? If I was in control of the Call of Duty Zombies team over at Treyarch, what would I do with Black Ops 5, Call of Duty 2023, or 2024, I guess at this point, whatever the game may be called. Once it finally comes out, what would I do to bring zombies back and, in my mind, make it better, and hopefully in the community's eye, bring everything back on track here? The first thing is I would start all over at the beginning. So you can obviously keep maybe some of the characters from before if you need to, or plot devices or whatever. But by and large, this should be a brand new story. Not a branching universe from Black Ops 4 or anything like that, like a brand new story, right? None of the events from previous Treyarch games have ever happened. We're starting clean. Just to kind of wipe all that away so you can keep the storyline from World of War to Black Ops 4 its own specific thing, and then start again Black Ops 5, whatever COD 2024 will be, and onwards. And I would definitely begin with 2 maps at least on the disc, and that would be a reimagining of the original map Nocturne and Toten, and a complete reimagining of the map Verrückt. And I would make it such that Verrückt was only unlocked after maybe you made it past a certain round in Noct, or you did so far in the Easter egg, or you found something on the map in Noct to unlock the second map. Don't make it too inaccessible such that, only people who beat the whole Easter egg can play, an entire half of the zombies content, but, at least something to kind of give the story a little bit of cohesion and maybe make it fun to actually unlock and want to explore that second map. And so that would be the very first thing. And I would definitely have a more fleshed out, planned out storyline. So something a little bit more. Call of Duty games obviously have a decent amount of storytelling, but they're not the best. I would like to see a dedicated team of writers come up with much more cohesive, grounded story that they have planned out in advance. So much retconning and copying and pasting and whatever has happened in the zombie storyline. I want this one to be thorough and thought out from the beginning, such that it makes sense, right? They don't have to use crazy, Deus Ex Machina moments where, you come in from a different timeline and that's why this suddenly makes sense. No, everything's planned out from the get-go and then just iterated on going forward. I think that would be a lot better. And obviously, I would start with maybe even a prologue cutscene or anything like that, and start over again with a team of Marines, a team of some soldiers, something like that, crash landing at Noct and kind of discovering zombies. And you could take that in a myriad of different ways. And I'd like to see them incorporate how the rest of the world is doing with this. We get the sense in the first couple of maps, at least in World of War, that this is kind of contained to these areas. So only a select few amount of people know about this. And I'd really like to see what they could do with that. Does the world find out about this? Is it only contained to this little area and Doris where it started? Things like that. Just really get in there and build out some more explanation and make it feel more realistic, more plausible, just to get your brain wrapped around it a little better. If you can involve what people in the outside world are thinking based on this, or how the soldiers are feeling, it feels a little more realistic, a little more fun, and the survival aspect starts to come back a little more, which I think is lacking recently. And in terms of, whether you bring back the old characters or just create brand new ones, I'm kind of up in the air on that. However they can make it work in the context of the story. But, again, the past events just can never happen. It has to be a clean slate for everyone. From then on out, I would also expand the map. So obviously Noct is a very small map. It was just made as a proof of concept pretty much from the devs in the very first World of War game. I would like to see it expanded so you can maybe go out in the courtyard, you can go here, you can go there. Make it a comparable size zombie map to what we get today, maybe even bigger and a little more detailed, since they're going to have that extra year off, since Modern Warfare 2 is going to be a 2-year game. So I'd like to see a lot more detail, a little more rooms, as long as they all fit and they make sense, within the context. I know D Machine kind of did that in Call of Duty World of War. I would like, or Call of Duty Cold War, sorry. I would like to see that scaled back a little bit, maybe reimagined to more fit the original vision of the map while also being expanded, like D Machina tried to do. I would also want more environmental storytelling. So obviously you want that overarching story that is told to the user through exposition, prologue, epilogue, cutscenes, whatever the case may be, maybe in-map, intel drops, stuff like that. But I'd also want more of that original World at War storytelling. You see a scrap of paper that hints at a certain scientist or a certain conspiracy theory and stuff like that to get the community involved in something that I remember being a huge thing back at World of War. Going on Google and searching what these different things meant and finding all these kind of conspiracy theories slash actual theories coming out about different parts of the zombies, story and lore and everything like that. And a little bit more gritty too. I know a lot of the new stuff is very fantastical and over the top. Make it more gritty, a little more scary, and down to earth, everything like that. Also, I would definitely create a more logical story flow for why the next map happens. One of the worst things that Call of Duty does in all of its stories and campaigns is it seems like it picks locations that it wants to go to and then just cobbles together something to make sense for why you go there. I know a big one that people complain about is Modern Warfare 2's storyline. It's like they picked certain locales and then they had to bend the story and it didn't make much sense. Zombies does that constantly. And I get trying to want to design a map that's cool and new and interesting for players, especially when you're sending them out as DLC. But I want a more logical flow, How come we crash landed in Noct? Are these same people then going to Verrückt? Is there another team that stumbles upon it? Just give us more information. And in this newer, more fleshed out universe, what's their motives? And as I'll mention later here in my next point, where else did they go besides these? Maybe toss in a few more locations and things like that make sense to the story. And that kind of obviously brings me to my next one, which is definitely incorporate new maps. So you don't have to necessarily go Noct, then Verrückt, then Shinonuma, and go down the line. But maybe branch off. Maybe there is a different base, air base or something in Europe or America where these things broke out. However they choose to take that story, I'd definitely be down for new maps that fit that same new storyline, only for us to maybe come back to a fan favorite reimagined within this new universe, within this new storyline. And again, just so that there's a logical flow and much more of a mature based story and everything like that that's a little bit better, written and thought out, so to speak. I would also really hope that they kept the story a little more grounded and focus on zombies. Possibly delve further into like the famous Nazi occult experiments that were done during World War II, which were a real thing. I actually had to do a report about it way back in high school. But focus more on that. Something that, yes, this is not what actually happened in 1944 or whatever, but very well could have. Keep it a little more grounded. Obviously you're shooting zombies, so there's a certain level of suspension of disbelief that's happening already, but make it as minimal as possible. And I think the original maps did a pretty good job of that, or at least they hinted at that, but maybe didn't have enough time to flesh it out. And that's what I kind of hope they do with that. I don't want it to be too crazy over the top. I don't want alternate timeline versions of our characters coming back to try to kill them, or dragons flying through Stalingrad, or giant mutant spiders in a remote island in the Pacific. Like, make it somewhat realistic, and there's ways to make it exciting, enjoyable, and fun and fresh gameplay wise without going crazy over the top bombastic with unrealistic stuff. And I think for Call of Duty that started out as more of a realistic, military shooter, Never a mill sim by any means, but more realistic, more grounded. Zombies was that way, that it was a little bit quirkier than the standard Call of Duty game, but it was still Call of Duty. It was still, somewhat reined in, so to speak. And as CODs have gotten crazier and more over the top over the years, we've seen zombies kind of jump the shark as well. So, in summary, I basically just wanted to be brought back home, brought, more realistic, and really what I want to see is them start over from scratch, where they started with Noct and Verrückt and all those maps. But if they had a bunch more time, a bunch more resources, and they were able to actually flesh things out more, start over from where they wanted to go, but just do it, I don't want to say a lot better, because that's kind of like a, well, duh, but, a lot more thoroughly this time around. And I think that would bring back a lot of us old heads who enjoyed those maps back in the day, but at the same time, it would also really engage new viewers in something that's easy to understand, that's more gripping and, in my mind, immersive, and a little bit more simpler. And obviously, as the game goes along, more and more maps come out, maybe sequels come out, you could take that storyline wherever you want. Just hold true to the original tenets, and maybe we'll get some awesome reimagining of maps and remasters. Things of that nature that I think would really do well to service the community. And just as a disclaimer as well, I'm not saying that all the content that comes out has to be reimagined maps as old maps. Like I said earlier, I would love them to throw in a couple more here and there that fit well into the story and bridge the gaps between the the maps that were released and stuff like that. That way, we are getting new content. It isn't just rehashed content. But yeah, other than that, again, I'll probably do another video at some point discussing what I didn't like about the new story and everything like that, but that's a separate video. I want to thank you guys for sticking around. I want to hear your thoughts and comments in the comment section below on what would make zombies better for you. Whenever that game finally comes out in 2024, what are you hoping to see from Treyarch, and what can they do to bring you back on board after the abysmal nightmare that was Call of Duty Vanguard Zombies? So once again, guys, if you've enjoyed this content so far, remember to leave a like below, and as always, check out the playlist with all of my Call of Duty discussion videos here on my channel, and hit that subscribe button if you'd like to stick around to see more similar content, as well as live stream clips and other content as well. So without further ado, you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later.